It's the Kink Consultant podcast, where we're turning up the heat on all things kink and dating, relationships, and pop culture. So close the door, plug in your headphones, and let's get down to it. Guess what? March 20th to March 23rd in Las Vegas, I'm hosting a couples retreat. If you and your partner keep talking about building a dom-sub dynamic, but all you've done is consume content and argue about what it's supposed to look like, listen up. You need to stop theorizing and start actually building your dynamic based on what works for you two. Sure, you already know the basics, you've read the books, you've watched the videos, but what you don't have is clarity about roles, power, boundaries, or how to actually live this lifestyle without second-guessing yourselves. You're gonna leave knowing who leads, who surrenders, how power moves between you, and how to hold that dynamic with confidence in and out of the bedroom. This is personal coaching in a retreat environment. Spots are limited on purpose. So head to amandadames.com/couples retreat or the link in the show notes to book your spot now. Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Kink Consultant. I am joined by the founders of the Somatica Method, which is the training course I went through to become a certified sex and relationship coach. I am Somatica certified. So I'd say in terms of people who have changed the trajectory of my life and career, we are sitting with the two people who kicked it off for me. And I am delighted to introduce Danielle and Celeste of Somatica. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Amanda. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And you both reached out to me about being on the podcast. And I have to be honest, when you did, I was like, why have I not asked them before? And I realized it's because I still have a very teacher-student mentality of, I can't ask them. They're so busy. They're so important to be on this podcast. So I'm truly honored to have you here. And I'm only sorry that I didn't do it sooner because I have so many people come to me and ask, how did you become the Kink Consultant? And I tell them I became a Somatica certified sex and relationship coach. And that is how I became the Kink Consultant. So
well, that's the kinky fantasy right there, isn't it? Teacher student.
Yeah. It is actively one of mine. Yes. It literally is. I know. So I like to be a little bit scared and nervous. So I'm in my happy place right now.
No, me too, by the way. It gives me something good.
I have done a lot of training with you. I've been in your class a lot. You pull out these things sometimes, and I'm reminded, oh, yes, Danielle is kinky, and so is Celeste. So
I'm a little vanilla. I mean, I'm kinky in my brain, but I'm a little vanilla in my sex life. Just to be honest, I have to out myself.
You know what it is, though? It's following you on Instagram and seeing how open you are. To me, that has been like, oh, that feels kinky. The openness alone.
Oh my God, I feel so seen. You understand my vulnerability kink.
Oh, I love that. I want to celebrate you for putting yourself out there like that then. I love it. Oh, okay. All right, Danielle, I've seen you submit on video through teaching too. So that tracks, Celeste. There are so many fascinating things that happen when you're in Somatica training. So let's take it all the way back. I'm going to ask you a question that I pause when I get this and I'm like, remember my training. What is Somatica? Can we start there?
Absolutely, yeah. Somatica is a method of sex and relationship coaching that really uses mutual vulnerability. Oh, there's that vulnerability kink again. And kind of deep interpersonal connection, emotional and erotic connection to help people learn and grow in their sex and relationship lives and to get like the best tools for intimacy. So it's actually practicing intimacy in real time, which helps people feel really confident and empowered when they go out and do it in their lives.
And I think when people talk about sex and relationship certification and things like that, we just didn't have a different name for it because Somatica is so unique. It's a method. It's not just giving advice. It's not about, I'll tell you what you need to do. It's very relational. And therefore, it's like the Somatica Method is a certification by itself because it's such a standalone method.
It really is. It's hard to explain it, but when I use it in my coaching sessions, people either think I'm a mind reader, I'm extremely intuitive, or that I'm magic because it really breaks down how to listen and attune to the person you're talking to. And I think that there's just such a disassociation from like attunement between people, and maybe it's phones. We could get into that at another time. It breaks it down so that you as a coach can attune to the person you're with. And I think you're just able to help them so much faster because of that. It's not face to face. It's like, let's bring this together and explore. And that's been my personal experience explaining of how the Somatica method works after being coached through it. So what are your backgrounds that got you to even being the people who would teach? A lot of people ask me that. They're like, well, what's your background? And I kind of go, blah, 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 blah. It's like Somatica. And then it was like before and after Somatica is my background. I'd love to hear your before Somatica.
Yeah, so I have my bachelor in psychology and my master's in clinical social work. I moved to the US and I was like, there's nothing in me that want to do the traditional way of working with people. It was not satisfying. There were like tools. I learned a lot of those clinical tools. I worked with people, was something not satisfying about it. And then when I went on my own journey of exploration around sexuality, and I was like, wow, this is so much more mind-blowing. Like people don't understand the potential of sexuality. I got my PhD in human sexuality. I was like, that's it. That's where I want to live my life, in the realm of sexuality, because it is really, really mind-blowing in terms of the catalyst of change that's possible around sexuality is really powerful.
I couldn't agree more.
I think my whole life, sex has been so central to my experience of nourishment in the world. It's what keeps me grounded and happy and, continuing to want to wake up in the morning. So it's really a big part of who I am. And I knew my whole life that I wanted to do something around sexuality. So I got my bachelor's in women's studies. And then there was this new human sexuality studies program starting at San Francisco State. I was part of the first class because I was like, oh my God, yes, finally. So that's where I did that. And then I did some research on adolescent sexuality development, which was really informative in terms of gender socialization and how that impacts all of us. And then I went on my own journey as well in taking more experiential classes and ended up in sexological body work, which is where I met the beautiful Danielle Harel. And, the rest is history, I guess. We created the method together really organically through working with people. And it was a responsive method to see what people really needed in the world of emotional and erotic intimacy, and to create a method that helped people with what they were asking for help with.
One of my biggest takeaways from Somatica is how you tackle shame head on. And I'm wondering, did you know going into the Somatica method and like when you created it and worked through it, did you understand how impactful shame was in the de-shamifying process to helping people? Or is that something that evolved over time?
I think it was very much from the beginning, but like a central part of what Danielle and I have always believed in, which is that people have so much shame around so many things, right? Not just sex, but sex, it's really way worse because of religiosity and all of the negative messaging. And we knew like we had to be ruthless de-shamifiers in order for people to be able to beat themselves in the world, basically, and especially in their erotic lives.
Yeah, and we really have allergy. I'm going to call it allergy to people that are in power position, the leaders in the field or anything like that, that make it look like there's only one way to have sex. So there's one way that's the right way. So we have like real allergic reaction. People say there's only one way to have sex. And I'm like, no, 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 there's many ways. And we want to help you find what's really works for you, because at the end of the day, you are who you are. You don't choose what turn you on. You don't decide how you want to show up in the world with your erotic life, but you decide how you want to show up, but you don't decide what turns you on. And then like helping people really accept it about themselves and see like, that's who I am. Let it be the thing that's bright about me and not the thing that's bad about me. That's so inherent and so intertwined, de-shamifying in the Somatica method.
I feel that so deeply and I'm getting so excited because I'm like, I know you did that for me, but truly, I am going to take a moment because I was thinking as this interview came up, I was like, oh, how do I encapsulate everything Somatica did for me? And I think this is a personal story that a lot of my followers know. I have a lot of shame about my weight, and it has caused huge swings in my happiness in life, I will say. And one of the things that Somatica did when you're talking about intimacy, how we show up, or just relationships, Somatica helped me take away the idea that how much worth I put in a number on the scale. And it's truly helped me move away from that, which allows me to show up more confidently in how I love my own body. And I get so much more excited about engaging in anything sexual, erotic, anything to do with my own nudity in front of a partner. And Somatica helped peel away some of that shame and where I was putting worth and value. So like, yeah, you can choose how you show up. And one of those things is working on showing up confidently. But then what turns you on that page, I talk a lot about how I didn't choose to be a spanko. I didn't choose to love to be spanked. I was born this way, and how I embraced it had to change so that I could actually start enjoying my sex life. I had luckily discovered how to enjoy my sex life and enjoy spanking and be proud of that before Somatica, but those other elements of how I showed up were really enhanced through Somatica.
Can I just say something like the fact that you ever questioned how fucking gorgeous you are enrages me. I mean, look at you for God's sake. That's like insane. I'm sorry, it's insane. It makes me so mad, and I'm allergic to scales. I won't even let them tell me my weight at Kaiser. You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank
had
you.
to say, I had to say, this world, if this world can make somebody as fucking gorgeous as you feel like insecure about themselves, then there's something wrong with this world. That's all I'm gonna say.
I can't disagree. And I get angry at society in general, and I have to just bring it inside and be like, this is who I am, and I'm proud and happy about it. And if I'm not, this is the other big thing. It's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? For some people who haven't experienced somatic, it can be really hard to even conceptualize what it's like and how it's different from therapy. Would you mind, at a high level, helping listeners understand if I were to come into your office or any somatica practitioner, what would I experience? What would a session look like and feel like? And how is it different from normal therapy? I know there's a lot in there, but just paint the picture in whatever way you'd like. I want to help people understand.
So when you step into a somatic office, it's like it's a completely different experience. It might look the same because you sit and you talk. But first, I think like the way that I hold myself and I encourage somatic coaches to hold themselves is much more relaxed and natural. Like I'm not trying to be something else. Like I have crazy sense of humor. I'm very off the cuff person, and all of it shows up in the, in sessions. So it's just like you get to be yourself as a coach. And when you are talking with your clients, you don't try to pretend that you're like this professional. It's like all like tight and like, have no desires and have no shame and has it all together and never falls off the pedestal, So we really like human, and we use our humanity to help deshamify people's experiences. So that's one really powerful way. And the other thing is we talk with people about how we feel with them in the room, how we feel with them erotically, how we feel with them emotionally. So it's kind of like being in a relationship lab with people and then practicing things as we go along.
Relationship lab is such a perfect way to describe it because you're in real time giving feedback, like saying, this is how I'm feeling, sharing it with the person so they also understand how they're being perceived. You're researching and working through it. Celeste?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, like coaching or therapy can be problem and trauma focused, and we really work with trauma empowerment. So it's not like we ignore or avoid any of that, but it's also really important that we focus on pleasure and joy and help people like have experiences that are joyful and pleasurable. And then they can go, oh, okay, I don't have to keep going down that same negative pathway that my brain goes down. I can go down this joyful, pleasure-filled pathway, and that's even more healing, right?
Yes.
Staying in the difficult part all the time. So even when we're working through trauma, we are laughing together, we're holding each other, we're finding the pleasure in every moment. And I think that that's what Somatica does. It retrains our brain towards joy and pleasure.
I understand everything you've said because I've been through the Somatica Method. I've been through the training, right? But the question that comes up, if I'm to turn that part of my brain off, is how can you possibly find joy through how uncomfortable it is to talk about sex, how embarrassing it can be? Like, how do you get to joy from that?
I think everybody has this internal spark of joy that's just there waiting, and we immediately start flirting with that part. You know what I mean? So even as we're talking about the hard things, and I'm sharing hard things about myself too, I'm still always like in touch with that part of them and that part of myself that's like, but you know what? This is going to get fun. We're going to get through this together. We're going to cry and we're going to laugh, and then we're going to have a lot of fucking fun. And then you're going to learn how to move through those challenging moments in your life and come back to pleasure and joy and not skip over them, because we need to feel everything. We don't get to feel the highs if we don't also feel the lows. So we need to feel everything, but we can always come back to our body, our pleasure, our playfulness, our love, our intimacy, our security of connection. Like those things are always there, plus our naughtiness and our, and our, "Ooh, let me see what's in there." I'm always like, yeah, but let's see what's really in there.
Yeah.
So that's keeping connected with that spark inside of me and inside of my clients all the time is a big part of it.
And I really think, just to add to what Celeste is saying, I really think there's something about when you are shameless and you are willing to acknowledge your shamelessness and your kinks and your turn-ons and you talk about it in the relationship, it just creates so much more relaxation in the room. Like people are not so tight and they know that we'll like jump in to support them in the process. The casual experience of connecting with people just where they are, not trying to make it more complex than it is. It's just nice to join and be together and flirt and laugh and cry and just be in the experience together. So there's no territory that feels like it's not allowed. Everything is welcomed.
Hey, Kinksters. As a certified relationship coach, so many of my clients have been telling me they're struggling with dryness. They are just as excited and turned on as they used to be, but their body isn't keeping up. And they're not alone. I get it too. Even when my mind is ready, my body needs a little extra support, and it can kind of kill the mood. So I started looking into my options. Yes, I always have lube in my drawer, but I wanted to be more lubricated on my own. I wanted my body to match how it was feeling. That's why I found Playground Miracle Melts, a hyaluronic acid suppository for your vagina. I was already using hyaluronic acid in my body wash and face serum, so why wouldn't I add this to my routine? They're clinically tested, recommended by doctors, and hormone-free, which made them an easy yes. And the more I talked about it, the more I realized dryness is way more common than people admit. So if you've been dealing with dryness, you have to give these a try. Check my link in bio to shop Playground today. I love how simply that it's just nice. I cannot explain how powerfully accurate that is, that it's just nice, even when you're going through some of the harder conversations. Feeling held as you go through it builds trust, and it builds your ability to trust other people and learn how to build trust with other people. And that's just nice.
I think you're really on it. That's it. That's this feeling of no matter what you're going to bring, a Somatica coach is there to catch you. That's the experience. You're going to be loved no matter what you're going to bring in.
Yeah. And that's what so many people are lacking, that feeling of safety when they do bring their true selves.
I have like a really fun example from a session not too long ago where I was talking about helping this person have a landing strip inside of themselves for like compliments and joy. And he thought I meant the other kind of landing strip, like a pussy landing strip, like and it turns out that he loves landing strips. And I was like, this is a conversation I did not know I need to have because I have a landing strip and I love my landing strip so much. And he loved it so much. Like he hasn't seen it. We're just talking about it and fantasizing about it because I don't take my clothes off, obviously. But we were so into my landing strip together. And I was just like, I think maybe we should write a song about it or like a poem, And like he was so excited and I was so excited. And there was so much erotic energy in the exchange around our mutual, I guess I do have a kink landing strip. We should have a shared kink. It was like he felt so seen and so loved and excited. And I was joyful about it because I was like, how come nobody has really ever talked to me about how amazing my landing strip is?
I have no doubt it's beautiful. I love landing strips too.
So that's a moment of like joy and pleasure that we got to share that really took it out of that depressive like focus and back into like, wait a minute, there's so much also fun to be had,
Yeah. I have a similar situation with a kinkster who came to me who had a balloon fetish and he felt really ashamed of it. And he talked about what he wanted. He wanted me to bounce up and down on a balloon. And I don't have balloons, right? But I was like, that sounds so fun and exciting, And for the first time, he was like, wait, I'm not a weirdo. And I'm like, no, how funny is that to be like hopping up and down on a balloon? Will it burst? Won't it? And we got to celebrate how fun his kink is as opposed to something to be embarrassed about. That's not something I thought about, and I got excited. Your landing strip wasn't something that you had thought was this exciting, erotic thing to discuss and celebrate, and it was. Danielle?
Yeah, it's really taking those moments of opportunity and like allowing them to be a little dirty, naughty, and not shy away from it. I think like not trying to be proper is one of the most healing things that can happen,
Yes.
Let's not be proper. It's okay for professionals not to be proper.
I'd never really thought about that. There's so much pressure, even if it's just perceived to be proper, like that's how you're going to be taken seriously. And then when you just whisk that away and realize this is helping and that in itself is proper and professional, The freedom to do that and experience it is huge.
Totally. Yeah.
I know
So,
those words like proper, appropriate. I'm like talking about shame allergy. All of those words is just like, should, blah, blah. Get rid of all of that and be human and excited. Like we're all sexual beings, you know? We don't have to hide that or pretend that that doesn't exist. It is professional to be sexual if you're helping people with sex.
seems so obvious when you say that, but like until you said it, I was like, you just put a barrier up. Because, as you said, of course you're fully clothed. A lot of people might not understand the Somatica method is a fully clothed method, but physical touch still happens. And that's a huge difference between like my therapist, I don't think has ever even hugged me. I've pretended to be a wild animal on the floor with someone, and we've interacted with each other fully clothed, highly erotic, and it's sort of breaking the barrier of other modalities.
Yeah, I think both the being able to touch, but also being able to really talk about your fantasies. There's so many tools that feel like they're not touch-based, but highly erotic. Like talking with someone about what turns them on, and even more talking with someone in relationship about what turns them on about me, or me talking with them about what turns me on about them, or what would be like if I had sex with them, what would it look like? It's just so permission giving that it's mind blowing the impact that it has on people's self acceptance and relaxation.
For me, as you say that, I'm like, the safety that builds when someone does that with me, when I get to do that with someone else, it builds a safety within them that they get to take out into the world. And there's acceptance in that.
Exactly. And that's medicine. If we talk about healing properties, this is medicine. You know?
There is no better medicine than accepting who you are and feeling good about it. That has been my life experience.
100%.
Yeah.
Mine too.
So you've certified over 1,000 coaches in this work. Have you had any big aha moments that have really informed changes in the Somatica method or how you guys have grown? Like, what evolutions has it gone through?
I think Somatica is constantly evolving, and I think that's something that actually we feel really proud of, that we get feedback all the time, and we will change what we're teaching in a module based on that feedback in the moment. It's like we teach and we learn from our students as well, and we're always growing and taking in the new information and incorporating it into the method. This is a very live, growing method, and I think any method that stops and is dead in that way, like it just can't keep up with how much society is changing. And so we really pride ourselves in being very involved in the trainings and always being responsive to the changes in the world and the feedback from our students.
And I know that you, Amanda, took the training as a student, but then you came back as a group leader. So you already probably had this experience of how it already looks different. Not only because you took it as a group leader and you went and did it the second time around from a different lens, but also like there's something about being in the moment because it's a live training. The relationship happens in the training too. With that particular group of students that are going through the training, there's like a relationship between the teachers and the students. There's a relationship within the students. So every cohort is different. And then like the training keeps growing with those relational aspects within the group and then like as a curriculum as well.
All of that is true. I mean, the curriculum has changed, in my opinion, definitely for the better, especially with specializations that you've introduced. But also, when you talk about changing in the moment, I have been through that. I've watched it happen of, hey, this is coming up for me. And there's a little discussion about it. And it's like, yeah, we see that. We understand that. And this is how we're changing in that moment. One of my biggest takeaways from it was it's okay to trigger people. It can happen, never on purpose, right? Watching people work through it is eye-opening because I also think in that fear of making a mistake and watching you both embrace mistakes happening and repairing after them also changes your ability to what I call being brave in the world of like, it's okay to be scared and do it anyway. My biggest takeaway was you're going to make a mistake. You're going to fuck up. What happens after that is where you've both stepped in and helped at least me, and I imagine countless others.
Yeah, because if you're going into intimacy with someone, intimacy is full of landmines. And so in some ways, it's not even a mistake. It's like you're just in a relationship.
Yeah.
you're paying attention to those moments where you do trigger each other. And instead of just ignoring them or apologizing or moving on, you're like, let's grow from this. Let's learn about each other's core wounds. Let's be able to be more attentive with each other now that we know this, as opposed to tiptoeing around and never setting off a landmine, which is, first of all, impossible, you know?
Yeah.
And secondly, not even helpful to try, because then you try to avoid them. You don't even deal with them when they arise. And then you can't learn how to be better in intimacy. We have to be able to deal with those moments when we trigger each other, where we get triggered, where we trigger another person. We need to be able to deal with them well if we want to have really good intimacy with someone.
This one's hitting me hard because I still experience fear of making someone upset or doing something wrong. But you're very right. That ability to do that, especially understanding how to repair and repair in general, does make it safer for me. I have a huge thing about feeling safe and no matter what I'm doing. And that I have all these tools now. Not everyone who does this wants to become a coach. Some people just want to understand the Somatica method. So you also help people work through that as well, right? Like for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. There are people that take in the Somatica training for their own personal life. All the experience of downloading all those tools into your life is very powerful, right? So there's something about being able to do that and like get them all. There's something powerful about learning in a group environment. I think it's very amazing to have a coach that gets you and like really with you and does those experiences with you. And also doing it in a group environment can be very powerful because you get lots of mirrors and you experience a group deshamifying experience. And you know how loving the community is. You do a demo and then everyone's like cheerleading you. You just get so much love. It's so healing, it's so soothing. It's allowing self-acceptance because you see so many people doing their thing. So you get to learn by seeing so many people doing the thing, and you get to be yourself and be accepted and loved and see your edges as well throughout the process. So I don't remember what was the question, but that's what was
No,
my answer.
it's like that you will get so much out of this for yourself. It's not just about, oh, I want to become a coach. These are tools that you can use in your relationships as a whole. And yeah, first of all, there are about 1,000 mirrors held up to you. So you really start to see yourself more clearly. And there's a lot of work to be done with that. But also enjoying and celebrating and seeing everyone just do their thing. It's eye-opening to see how other people live their lives, how other people have fantasies. And it's normalizing for you to understand we might all be different. We might have different interests. But in that, you have to understand that your interests aren't that different or shameful. They're just different, but still worthy of celebration and experience, and they have a place in your life.
And there'll be always someone who's going to get turned on by your kinks.
Oh my gosh, yes. There is always going to be someone. You can also introduce kinks to people that they didn't know they were going to be excited about before. There's just so much sharing to be done and enjoyment and celebration. I know the process I went through, but because so much has changed, I want to understand if someone's interested in either becoming a coach or just taking that core training, what's the process of getting into it, being accepted into the course? What does that look like today?
I mean, I think the best thing to do is to go to our website, somaticainstitute.com, and you can explore everything about it. But all you need to do, if you're ready, is fill out an application. If you have questions, I'm always happy to hop on a call with people and talk in depth about the program. We also have intros, free intros all the time for people to come in and ask questions. But basically, you just fill out your application, and then if it's a good fit, you start the journey. And we have another training coming up in April. So, yeah.
And not everyone does get in. I remember having to answer questions about myself through the form and just understanding like, okay, you really do accept people who've done at least enough work to get in. And that's what also makes it so powerful is you are with a group of your peers who have done the internal work necessary. And it's not like leaps and bounds. It's just really having the ability to look at themselves. And I think that also makes all of the dyads you do, all of the relationship labs you do within the course much more meaningful because you've all put in a little bit of work on yourselves before showing up. So you're working with like-minded people in terms of growth-minded.
That's the main thing that we look for on the application is that people are really self-aware. Like one of the questions, my favorite question on the application is, what's challenging about being in a relationship with you? Because if people don't know that they are challenging in a relationship in some way, they don't know themselves. I'm sorry, but like none of us is perfect. And so if somebody's like, well, I'm just like, some of the ones that I feel like are kind of iffy is just like, well, I'm just such a sexual being and people can't handle it. And it's like, okay, sure, but there's something else. It's not the only thing. And what do you do when you get triggered? What do you do? Like that makes intimacy challenging because we all have that. I have that, like I work on it forever. It still comes up. So I just want people to be honest with themselves and to be able to be honest with other people about it because that means you're ready. You're emotionally ready to take a training like this.
And also, it means that you are willing to look at yourself and you already have a little bit of a willingness to crack through the shame because sometimes people say stuff because they don't disclose things because they feel shame around it. So if you are able to say, like, yeah, like I know I have ADHD and yeah, it does impact people around me. And the way that I communicate, even when I'm not triggered, gonna make other people need to have more effort. And I'm also not only have ADHD and I'm like, can be all over the place and like don't finish my sentences, but also I want people to be attuned to me. I was like, good luck with that, like so there's something about like being willing to see who you are and how you can be challenging for people, even if you come from the deepest of your heart, even if you're the sweetest person, which I am. I love it. I am sweet, but people to listen to me, it requires their energy. And I do want them to listen to me. So something about knowing that about yourself and being willing to say that, that means like I had to do some work not to go into a shame spiral and say no, it's not really an effort. It's like, yeah, it is an effort. That's what part of living with me mean. And it like took me a while to even realize that. And then I started to like really appreciate the people that are taking the time to stay attuned and listen. And that brings more love as opposed to more defensiveness and anger. So that's part of growth, like being able to see who you are and how you impact people. And a lot of it, we want people to be willing to know something about themselves, but also be willing to keep knowing things about themselves, because that's what happens in the Somatica training. You keep learning things about yourself. You keep peeling those parts, and your willingness to do that and your interest in that, that's where the growth is.
That hits so deeply on so many levels because I'm glad we talked about the questions that come up and why that speaks so much to the Somatica method and who this is right for as well. Just that willingness. What happens is you also are able to pull that out of other people and help them on their journey to both see themselves and I guess develop stronger relationships because of it. The thing that came up for me right then, Danielle, as you were talking about it, is you are kind. Part of that kindness comes from your ability to put forward a boundary lovingly. And you both do this. Obviously, it's part of the Somatica method, but I wanted to talk about that because I find boundaries are so important and terrifying at the same time. And I think that some of what you described comes with putting up boundaries and then also attuning to someone else's boundaries and deciding, like, yes, they are important to me and I can and will be mindful of their boundaries and we'll work with them together. What I thought I knew about boundaries was basically thrown to the side once I went through the Somatica method and now understood and respected my own boundaries so much more, which helps you get closer to people too. Sorry, I'm like being a mini cheerleader because I'm like, yes, and you helped me with this, and I learned how to do that, and I'm a better person because of it.
Thank you, Amanda. I do think that boundaries are really, really important, especially when we're talking about kink and playing with kink. It's really important. It can also be like, I do love edging with boundaries. There's a part of me that also likes to lead people to the edge of their boundaries. So there's like knowing that, again, another thing that you know about yourself and about like if that's something that's important for you when you're like playing in the kink world. So understanding the quality that it's not just like, yeah, we have boundaries. We have this idea, yeah, we have boundaries like this thing. You say yes, you say no. That's not how it works. It's so much more deep and complex. And then it's so nuanced. So knowing your relationship with boundaries, knowing how you are impacting people with your relationship with boundaries and being able to have this communication with other people around boundaries. We try to remove the defensiveness out of the picture and say like, yeah, that's who I am. Your boundaries really matter to me. And that's how it makes me feel. This whole like gentleness that comes with it and offering it in a loving, connected way, staying connected with the boundaries is what actually makes the biggest shift.
Yeah.
I think boundaries are also, as we're, kind of already alluding to, they're an imperfect science. Like we don't always know what our boundaries are in the moment. I definitely let my boundaries be crossed when I have fear of losing someone because I have attachment trauma. So, when we can actually acknowledge what our relationship is to our boundaries as opposed to just, you should keep your boundaries, that to me, that's a shame sentence, right? Because sometimes I will and sometimes I won't, and I won't do it perfectly. And I know who I am and I know why I cross my boundaries sometimes. I also don't blame other people because they're mine. You know what I mean? And so it's like, have that level of awareness and subtlety around something like boundaries as opposed to just yes or no, as Danielle was saying, is so important.
Yeah. The should thing is a big one that I have to untrain myself from should because there's so much shame that comes with that word. In fact, there's only shame. Any sentence that includes should is just shame. There's shame under that sentence. Me and your students and clients of Somatica coaches are not the only people who have paid attention to how powerful the Somatica method is and can be. Since I took the class and I was certified, I believe you are now TV stars. I would go so far as to say that, and I'm not going to let you back away from that title. Virgin Island, can we talk about it?
I just love how you whisper it. Virgin Island.
I know I was like, I'm going to mention the show, but then I was like, how am I going to mention the show? Let's talk about Virgin Island.
I love that you whispered it. It wasn't. This is like I love that you're like, I have a secrecy kink.
How am I just learning this? Okay, well, I literally today, just this morning, had a client. I was teaching them to whisper and like what to whisper to really put their partner on edge in a delightful way. And I'm like, I've never thought about a secrecy kink.
Yeah.
So how did the show come about? Were you trying to make a show? Were people approaching you to be on a show? How did it happen?
It was so great. I mean, we had tried to make a fictional TV show, and we have a whole pilot for that, which is amazing, but still, it's hard to sell things in Hollywood these days. But we just got an email from this production company in the UK, and they had seen these Somatica sessions online that we had done, and they said, we've never seen anything like this before. People teaching how to have intimacy while in intimacy. How is that not something that's already been on television? And so they really wanted to help adolescents in the UK because there's a virginity crisis as they're thinking of it. When we think about that, we're like, people are not experiencing the kind of intimacy that they want to experience. And there's a lot of, lack of knowledge and awareness and understanding on how to do that. And so they contacted us and, we were in a meeting like a week later. I happened to be going to the UK. We were in a meeting a week later, filming that day, a little bit of a teaser, like, guess what happens on our island,
Oh my gosh.
I just want to say they wanted to help young adults, not adolescents. It was like young adults who could not like lose their virginity and they didn't know how to connect. It wasn't just about virginity. It was really about inexperience and lack of confidence around sexuality. It's not about like the losing the hymen.
I recently had a guest on. Instead of virginity, it's your sexual debut. And I'm not sure how that aligns with your work or your philosophy on it, but I loved that because, yeah, it's not about the hymen. It is, what is my sexual debut? I also just hate losing my virginity. I didn't lose anything. I gained a wealth of experience and it's been fantastic. So how much say did you have in what the show is going to be then?
First of all, I'm very excited because we actually created the format with them. Like we created, it's called a Bible in film, which is like the format of how we are actually using this first season and then like a Virgin Island in other countries that they're going to produce themselves, different countries, different cultures. So it's very exciting. It was like a very super creative process. We really love the way you're doing it. They were like filming us doing a thing. We had the workshops. They filmed us doing our workshops, the Somatica workshops, the way you went through them in the training. We did some special Somatica stuff for people who are inexperienced, focused on that because, Somatica can take you to so many different places, focused on getting experience and feeling confident around sexuality. So we did not rehearse for that. We just came over and did our stuff,
Yeah, it wasn't performative. It was a real look at the Somatica method in practice.
Yeah, what I really love about Double Act, which is the production company that filmed the show, is that they are documentarians. So they wanted to document what we were doing. They didn't want to do like reality television like you see it a lot of places, which isn't real at all. And we had interacted in the past with other reality TV kind of production teams in the US, and it was such a different experience. It's hard to describe. It's just a very high integrity organization, Double Act. So we've really teamed up to create something that's super real. And you can see it with the transformation that these young folks go through. It's phenomenal. And we just filmed season 2, and woo, it's going to be other level.
Can't do spoilers, but we're dying to. Just so you know, we're sitting on our hands here, trying so hard not to tell you stuff we cannot.
I have a client who is, a virgin, right? And they are watching the show as well. Like, I saw this. Do you think that would help me? And I'm like, yes. They're getting somatic inputs from different places, and that's helping them on their journey too. So it's like helping so many more people than just the group that you're working with. I love that. What's next for Somatica? Like, where do you have your sights set? Because it just sounds like you've been growing and growing. For how many years have you two been together and working on the Somatica Method?
20.
20 years.
20 and some change, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of books in the making. We are, we're always just like growing the method and transforming the method. And we want Virgin Island to be everywhere in the world. So hopefully more and more countries will pick it up and more young people will be helped. Young adults will be helped with their intimate lives, because it's really, really important that we don't lose intimacy, in our devices. It's really a crucial time for Somatica, because we want to help people stay intimate with all of the forces in our society that are against that, not purposely, but are getting in the way of intimacy.
You have touched on something that I want to ask about. There's no silver bullet. There's no quick fix to all of this. It's not like you delete social media and your life gets better immediately. There are benefits, there are negatives. I am going to ask, though, if you could wave a magic wand and get rid of one thing out there that you think is hurting intimacy for people today, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing that actually hurts intimacy is shame. Because I think what happens is that social media plus porn combo created this very intense experience that you are micro watched. There's something about everything you're going to say is getting such high exposure potential. So if we're talking about shame, and if we're talking about like, I can be held to something that I said it is a joke, like this exposure feeling and the potential of being canceled around it is so intense. It happens to people. It's like all those experiences make people not really want to go out there and be real. And that, I think, is the biggest thing that is damaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Celeste, or?
Well, yeah, I was just reading a story about a young teenage girl who got expelled from school because she got in a physical fight with someone who had created AI porn, like a deep fake porn of hers, and they were all teasing her. And then she lashed out, obviously, for obvious reasons. She tried to go to the administration, they didn't help her. And then she got expelled, right? So here's this young girl whose life is completely changed because of this sexual shame, and she's the one who gets in trouble. And it's just very frustrating. And I think it happens a lot, especially for girls, to be exposed in this way because of slut shame that's focused more on girls than boys. They're the ones who get the brunt of it. And I think, I would really want to transform that piece of shame, especially, and help us just be like, you know what? We're all sexual. If somebody makes fake pictures about you, it doesn't mean anything bad about you. It's like, if we had a society where that didn't faze her, and a society that didn't blame women for those kinds of things, she wouldn't be in this horrible position, So that's the kind of stuff that I want to eradicate. And social media exacerbates it, right? But it didn't cause the problem.
If you think about it today, with the way that people kind of communicate with each other, everything is like very text-based, very short. Just like people don't get the experience and the training of actually doing repair. Like, what does it mean to be in a relationship? It means like you have an opportunity to say something more than one time. You have an opportunity to like repair and correct and like give it another angle because you saw how it landed on someone. So all those things, young people, like young adults, don't do that. They just do not do it. Like, you said one sentence, it's going to be taken out of context. It's going to be taken verbatim. And we know that people say stuff, and it's like the need to craft the right message in a text is so intense. I would feel so debilitated if I did not have other ways to communicate. with people and course correct and make sure that it landed well and see how they impacted and what they think about it, and then be able to change what I said. I'm getting so frustrated when I see how young people date today. It's insane. Like, it's a miracle if people actually able to create some sort of connection out of it, you know?
First of all, I've never thought about it as an opportunity. Being in a relationship is an opportunity to say things more than once. Everything you said is very empowering, but also I'd like to echo your sentiments about dating today and how difficult it is, because it's like life is training us in a different direction of say it succinctly, put it in a text, answer an AI chat on the phone instead of talking to someone directly. We're moving away from connection in part because of technology, which I wish we were a little bit more communication and human focused in all parts of our lives. And it's sad that we're kind of going slightly off course, but also with dating apps, both very helpful, but also stopping us from being able to communicate with multiple different people in a real life setting. If anyone is on the fence right now and they're thinking, I want to do it, I'm not sure. My experience was that I called Danielle and Danielle was so warm on the call. What happened was I went to the website, I filled in the form. Danielle offered a phone call because there are other courses out there. Somatica is not the only one, but my phone call with Danielle was so warm and inviting and empowering in that I did have choice. And the reason Somatica might be the right one for me is their focus on deshamifying things around intimacy, especially because I had talked about my interest in kink, and the acceptance and love I felt from Danielle about my interests and the celebration I felt on that phone call is what made me go with Somatica, because I felt seen and like this was a journey that sounded exciting for me. What would you say to someone who's on the fence right now and thinking, I don't know if this is for me, if I'm at the right time in my life, is one I hear a lot. Would love to hear your thoughts on it.
There's nothing that makes life better than having amazing intimacy with the people that we love, both emotional and erotic. And Somatica really helps people with sex, but it also just helps you with relating to your family members and your friends and, your kids, right? Because it's about attachment and it's about love. And it's also with partners about erotic connection. And I don't think there's anything in the world that makes your life better. And if you can do that for yourself and then go out and help other people, there's kind of nothing more fulfilling than that, because you see the joy that it spreads in the world. I mean, to me, if you're on the fence and you're like, wait, this is the thing that can give me the most, fun and amazing life, take the plunge.
Yeah, and like at the end of the training, we hear our students take time to share their experience in that environment. People talk about how it impacts their lives. And I'm just like, wow, people's lives changed completely. And I see it with my family. Everyone in my family took Somatica because they wanted to have the tools, and it changes their lives, like not just in our family, in our relationship, but also with their friends, with their lovers, with their partners. And it just keeps rippling. And I think if you thought about this one thing that can really transform your lives, and in addition, you might want to do a career out of it, it's going to be mind-blowing, because then you get to go to work and do those things day in and day out, and you know it, Amanda, because you're doing it, right? So it's like, why think twice, honestly? That there's one thing that really impacts you and changes your life, and it's giving to you in a condensed course. Wow, why think twice?
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things this has done is affected my relationship with my family more than anybody else, even my intimate partners. And it did a lot there, but just my ability to express how I feel hurt and create reconnection with family members at times. I can't speak highly enough of Somatica. It really changed my life. And I think, why think twice? That's how I feel having gone through it. And I've had friends go do it. I have never heard anyone say opposite than it being a really positive experience. So I cannot encourage this enough. If you have ever reached out to me and asked, how do you become the Kink Consultant? If you've asked about my certification or where to start, somatica.com. That is where I started, and it changed everything, genuinely. So thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Celeste, so much for sparking and being the ones to reach out to me, because I appreciate it so much. I did have a moment of like, should I tell them that this is not a big deal, my podcast? Are they sure they have time for this? So I appreciate you guys so much, and I cannot wait to share Somatica with even more people.
Thank you so much. It's been really lovely to connect with you here, because it feels like so relaxed and familial, like, we're like in the same Somatica family together, and it feels really good. And thank you for having us here. And your podcast does mean a big deal because it changes people's lives. So
thank you for that reminder.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone who might find it interesting. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out. Email info@thekinkconsultant.com. Until next time, keep on kinking on.